Levi Trumbull reporting in Hagerstown, Maryland. I'm here with Shawn Porter today, and we are on Brynwood Street. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're at Brynwood.
Brynwood Street. So here's what's going on. I wish I could be here today on different circumstances, and I know probably that Shawn does too. We are currently standing at the residence of a gentleman named Shawn Hall, who is from Hagerstown, Maryland. He lives right here at this house. And he has been missing for over 30 days. And if that wasn't bad enough, on top of that, we have a litany of individuals with lengthy criminal backgrounds who have been staying at this house all during the time period in which Shawn Hall has been missing. And we have no answers to his whereabouts. So, Shawn Porter, what's going on? Let's just kick this discussion off.
The reason why I'm here is I'm a former neighbor of Shawn's. I've known Shawn for about 5 years.
Correct.
And the neighbors are too terrified to go on record and discuss what's been going on here. They're afraid that the gentleman who may be responsible, ultimately the presumption is we feel that something bad has happened to Shawn. He wouldn't just disappear like this for no reason. This guy's a good guy. He did a lot of outreach for the homeless, and I think that's basically where he got in trouble, was trying to help ex-cons and homeless people and allowing them into his home. But essentially, the neighborhood is terrified of these gentlemen that may or may not be responsible for what happened to Shawn. The one guy, Boise, has been driving up and down the street up until a few weeks ago, kind of like revisiting the scene, so to speak. This was like a con man that was allegedly, he was acting as an attorney. He took money from a friend of mine to do legal work and then didn't do it. So I know that he's been pretending to be an attorney. I know that he was convicted of armed robbery. I know he served like a decade in jail for armed robbery. Mm-hmm. He was trying to start a business. He got this Shawn guy to put a truck in his name, like a brand new expensive truck, a white pickup truck in his name. He was looking at warehouse space to rent. And basically this guy is pretty much, from all accounts, in my opinion, he's just a con man, pretending to be a lawyer, pretending to be an entrepreneur, and using Shawn and his good nature with a bunch of BS to get money out of him. And, you know, it's my opinion and the opinion of a lot of his neighbors that, you know, Shawn's good nature ran out, and, you know, some individual, Boise or the guy, the convicted child pornography guy that was here.
And we'll get into all that in a minute, but if you would just briefly, we're more than 30 days into this situation. Like, what do you know as of right now about this disappearance? Do you know anything?
Yeah, what I know from all the neighbors and other friends of Shawn is that he is missing.
Shawn Hall, by the way.
He is missing. Mm-hmm. And this is a guy who doesn't miss dinner. He doesn't miss a 4th of July party. He doesn't miss anything. This guy is ultra reliable. Everything is neat and in perfect order. And this house has been turned into basically turned into a trap house by the occupants after he went missing. Now, if he was going to come back at any point in time, you certainly wouldn't, you know, be cooking crack on the stove or doing fentanyl or injecting drugs inside of the house with this guy who's so OCD. Every blade of grass has to be in order. I'm looking around, I see cigarette butts everywhere, and it smells god-awful here. The place is an absolute mess, and apparently the cops have been here every night until finally everyone was removed, either last evening or the evening before last. And I believe they confiscated drugs and guns. They had been living in Shawn's bedroom. You know, they'd broken his lock, lived in his bedroom, broken his safe, took his guns out of his safe. They were all around the house. I think everyone involved was a felon. So you got felons in possession of guns and drugs. It sounds like a horrible situation, but I don't see how anything good comes out of this at the end.
So let's talk about what we know. As of right now, we know that it's been, what, since Memorial Day?
May 28th at 10 p.m.
May 28th at 10 p.m. that Shawn Hall has been absent from his residence. We don't know, nobody seems to know of his whereabouts. He sort of just disappeared without saying anything, while simultaneously in his house, this house, we're standing at his front door right now, he's housing 3 gentlemen with serious criminal convictions. That would be number 1, Julian Blackman, convicted on or charged, I should say, charged and convicted for child pornography. I believe over 10 counts of child pornography. Then we have a gentleman, Chris Lomax, who was charged and has a conviction for the possession and distribution of MDMA, cocaine, fentanyl. And then we have this third gentleman, the one you just named. We have this Boise Neal, who has been convicted of armed robbery and as a result did a significant amount of time in prison for such offenses. And we know that that case even went to the Maryland Supreme Court, which is Maryland's highest court, in attempt to get these charges overturned, and I believe that was unsuccessful. So what does that say to you, that these are the people who were here?
You know, he was a preacher, a pastor, you know, there's many different names for what he did at the jail for years and years and years. He was in the Air Force. He's the nicest guy. He did homeless outreach in the community, and he believed everyone deserved a second chance. Well, some people don't. And I think, honestly, the convicted armed robber guy, you know, if you're willing to, you know, use a gun or an instrument of death in the commission of a robbery, you're probably willing to kill a person. And I'm concerned that Shawn Hall may have been that person.
Well, here's the thing. I think we have every right. There's a certain principle in life where you're allowed to use common sense and basic logic. We know who's here. You know, it's not Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa is not staying here. These are three gentlemen who, and it's not just them, and they're bringing in other people, so I've been told, who are into drugs, hard drugs, fentanyl, cocaine, MDMA, these hard narcotic drugs, and they have the propensity to violence. We would be fools to almost not say that that could be the case, that they have done harm to this man.
I think it could be the case. I'm sorry, but armed robbery and doing hard time, they don't give you hard time for armed robbery if it wasn't likely to result in someone's death. If it was armed robbery and it was a finger gun in a pocket or something, I doubt he would have got the time he got. So he's probably done other bad things. I can't necessarily speak to that. I'm just guessing at that point. But, you know, I know for a fact that he pretended to be a lawyer and he took money for legal services from someone who was not smart enough to understand that you can't be a lawyer if you just got out of prison for felonies. But this individual didn't get that, gave him money to do some paperwork, and it never got the work done. And now he's gone. The truck that was financed by Shawn to help this guy start some sort of a business, apparently that's missing in action as well. And it's presumed that he's driving it around. He's been seen driving it up and down this very street, Brynwood Street here in Hagerstown. And the neighbors are scared to death that, you know, whoever did this, you know, we're assuming that, you know, he's not gone for 30 days because he went on vacation and just didn't tell anyone. So whoever did what we think has happened here could do the same thing to neighbors who are calling the police or witnessing. And basically at this point, he'd have to go after everybody in town because everybody in town is now on this.
Well, one of the things, and you said police, that was going to be my next question that I asked you. I have reached out to the authorities. They have not contacted me back or given me any information about this situation. What's your dealings with them been like?
My dealings with the Hagerstown Police Department
about this situation
has been, well, in regards to this situation, it's been the exact same as you. I emailed for comment. I got no comment. I called in. I spoke to, you know, a police officer about the issue. They're not trying to make a statement. That's their deal. You know, whatever helps their investigation, go with God. You know, hopefully they figure this out quickly for the sake of the family members. But, you know, they're understaffed, they're overworked, and there's only so much that they can do. And we need people to call in if they've seen Shawn or know anything about Shawn or where Shawn might be.
Yeah. So I'm under the understanding that just last night, these gentlemen were arrested. What do you know about that incident?
I don't know that they were arrested. I know that the cops...
There was a drug incident.
The cops came and basically kicked everyone out of the house.
Yeah.
And I was...
Which is good for us, I guess.
I was informed by the neighbor that the cops were saying that these guys were going to be charged for drugs and guns found in their, you know, immediate vicinity near them. So they were not, as far as I know, they weren't actually physically arrested. They were just sent on their way, and they're going to get summonses or warrants later.
Yeah. One quick note that I want to touch on real quick is the smell out here is horrendous. It smells like decomposing meat. or like wet dog food or just something, or like sewage. I mean,
It smells like 10,000 gallons of spoiled milk in the July sun.
It is.
It's so
awful.
bad. I'm
and
dying.
I can't identify it.
I'm dying standing here, and the only thing saving me is the cigar smoke.
What is your gut telling you right now?
My gut is telling me
feeling?
that my former neighbor and a guy who, gave me rides when my truck was at the shop and celebrated 4th of July with him and other neighbors at a block party, my gut is telling me that he's not with us anymore.
Yeah. And I honestly, I feel like you have every right to think that, and I think that common sense, if you were to use it in this situation, would lead you to that very conclusion. Because, like I said, the propensity for these gentlemen, should I even call them gentlemen? I don't even think so.
I wouldn't call them gentlemen.
These guys, to say that they don't have the propensity to do something awful is just, it's not there. This is an awful situation.
These guys are all convicted of victim crimes. Child pornography. There's children being victimized.
Of course.
Armed robbery, there's people being victimized.
Yes.
And anyone that sells fentanyl is okay with murdering people because fentanyl is the devil's drug and it kills all of its users, as far as I know.
Yeah.
It's just horrible stuff. And for it to be on Brynwood Street is insane.
Very
this
nice neighborhood.
never would have occurred if it wasn't for the good nature of Shawn Hall and him trying to help convicts and rehabilitate convicts and try and help the homeless and go, do outreach at City Park and all the things that he was known for doing. He went on missionaries trips to Africa to help people in Africa. The guy's got a heart of gold, and it seems like people took advantage of him until he finally stood up for himself, and that's when things went bad. That's the consensus among neighbors and friends of Shawn.
So I guess the final question that I'll close out with is, what can the viewer watching this right now, what can they really do? If
you've been around any of these guys, this Boise fella.
Yeah, we're talking about Boise Neal, Julian Blackman, and Chris Lomax.
If you have any information from any conversations you may have had with them where they alluded to something happening, please call the number that Levi's going to provide. It's the non-emergency number for Washington County non-emergency, and tell them you're calling in regards to, Shawn Hall, the missing person, and they will be able to get the information and get it to the appropriate people at HPD. HPD is too understaffed to be answering phones. They're out there working the streets right now.
Yeah, all right, you heard it right there. Let's see if we can get information about Shawn Hall of Hagerstown, Maryland. I want to thank Sean Porter for being with me today. And we appreciate it.